Let's get to it here. Sonny Gray heading to the St. Louis Cardinals. And again, I think this is just such a great fit for both sides. It is a 3-year deal. There is an option for 2027. It is valued at $30 million. There is a $5 million buyout. And again, the option, it is a club option for 2027. So overall, very solid deal for the St. Louis Cardinals. And what are they going to be getting here in Sonny Gray? Well, you're getting a guy that made 32 starts last year, was a finalist for the Cy Young Award, and for good reason. ERA at a 2.79, FIP at a 2.83, a 5.3 Fangraph WAR. That is really solid. And Sonny Gray having himself a career year, the highest Fangraph WAR of his career. Pretty solid strikeout to walk ratio, right around 9 strikeouts per 9, 2.5 walks per 9. But the big thing with Sonny Gray is he kept the home runs down. And the big reason I like this for the Cardinals is, the Cardinals, they are trying to implement more strikeouts, more stuff into their pitching staff, but they are still a team that has for a while now valued getting the ground balls. And Sonny Gray, as you can see here, 47.3% ground ball percentage, one of the highest rates in baseball last year, keeps the ball in the yard. That is something the Cardinals have always valued. And the fact that they are looking for some more strikeouts, that to me, Sonny Gray, yeah, he's not going to be like Spencer Strider's strikeout level, but hey, 9 strikeouts per 9, that's pretty solid overall. To me, just when you look at the numbers, it was just a perfect fit. And just when you look at the money as well, that just made a lot of sense too, right? The Cardinals historically, they never really spend the big bucks, right? They never really go for those really long-term deals. But with Sonny Gray, they're giving him a pretty decent deal overall, AAV of the $25 million there, and then with the club option. And to me, I think this actually fits with the Cardinals and the way they like to spend, because they're not locking themselves into a long-term deal here, just a 3-year deal. So overall, I think this is just a great fit for both sides. Sonny Gray, this is a guy who's going to be getting paid some big bucks as he enters into those latter parts of his career. I still think Sonny Gray has probably a couple more seasons of good pitching left in the tank. Now, the big question is this enough for the St. Louis Cardinals? I was seeing a lot of debate today, back and forth. I put a couple of tweets out there today that gained some traction. And overall, I'll say this too, I guess something to keep in mind. I'm always a glass half full kind of a guy. That's just how I've always been. Sure, I definitely have my negative takes on things, but I always try to look at things on the bright side. That's just how I've always been since I was a wee little lad. And Sonny Gray, to me, when you add him to this rotation alongside the additions of Kyle Gibson and Lance Lynn, I actually do like this rotation. Now, I don't think it's like a top 5, even a top 10 rotation in the game. But what I like about this Cardinals pitching staff, look at all the innings that they have from these guys, right? Look at the innings from last year. Sonny Gray with 184, Gibson with 192, Lynn with 183.2. Michaelis for them last year eclipsed the 200 inning mark. That is a really good amount of innings. I'm expecting Lance Lynn to have a bounce back year this year. I think this is a comfortable place to go for him. I think he's going to figure out how to just get everything back on track this coming year. I think the familiarity there is going to be good for him, honestly. And this is just a veteran guy. He knows that he had a bad year last year. I expect Lance Lynn to get after it in the offseason. I could even expect him, maybe even drop a couple of pounds, right? Really just work at it this offseason. I could see Lance Lynn being a very motivated guy for next year. And then Kyle Gibson, he's a pro's pro. Sure, you see the ERA at a 4.73, but the FIP, this is a guy where he's going to be right around a league average FIP. And to me, I just think when you put all of this together, you have a lot of depth, right? That is the big thing here when it comes to the St. Louis Cardinals. Bear with me, everyone. 1 second. My iPad that I use for my central control station died, and I just realized I don't have it plugged in, and here we are. So I got to put my phone here to make sure everything is running well. Anyway, we are good to go now. So, overall, I love the innings, right? I love that these guys are durable. I like that they're going to give you a solid foundation of innings pitched. Could you go into 2024 with this rotation? I do think you can. I don't think it's going to be the best rotation out there, but I think it could be pretty good. Now, if you take a look at the rotation from last year, right, you had Flaherty there. I honestly think Flaherty was I feel like he was a bit overrated last year. I think it was great that he was back to being healthy, but I didn't think Flaherty was the most amazing guy out there. I felt like he was getting really overhyped last year. No disrespect to Jack Flaherty. When I look at the numbers, they just weren't as good as what people, were making him out to be. Wainwright actually hurt this team last year. He had a negative Fangraph WAR last year, and negative 0.5 to be exact. And Steven Matz last year missed a lot of time. So I think if you go into this next coming season with this rotation, I'm expecting Steven Matz to be fully healthy. I'm expecting Lance Lynn to be a bit better next year. I'm expecting Michaelis and Gibson to just keep doing what they're doing, giving you innings. And then Sonny Gray. I expect Sonny Gray to be at least a 4 to 5 Fangraph WAR kind of a guy. I honestly think this is going to be, if this is what the rotation is, I think it's decent. I don't think it's terrible. I do think it is an upgrade from last year. I saw a lot of people saying that you're pretty much staying put. You're standing pat with the rotation, just with different names. I was seeing that a lot. I personally think it is a little better. But what I think is going to be a little bit better about this Cardinals rotation, and I'll say it again, you're already sick of me saying this word, innings, right? If you look at the Cardinals rotation last year, there were so many inconsistencies with this rotation last year. Just guys getting hurt, guys up and down. I mean, you had just random guys. Drew Rom was starting games last year. You had no consistency in this rotation. I'm telling you, there is a big thing when guys are making their starts consistently every fifth day. When you are keeping that routine, when you are just holding it strong, right, and not getting hurt and just, not having to switch guys in and out. That's a big deal, right? Sorry to use my Red Sox as an example, but look at 2021. Look how bad that rotation looked going into the year. But the Red Sox rotation that year was actually pretty good. It wasn't amazing by any means, but the guys were making their starts, right? Guys like Garrett Richards and Martin Perez were going out there every fifth day and giving you at least 5 innings, right? And the Red Sox all of a sudden at the All-Star break were right there in contention, right? Because they were getting consistency from the starting rotation. That is something that I think just numbers aren't going to paint the whole picture of, right? Staying in that routine, keeping that consistency. I think that's going to be a big thing for this rotation moving forward. Now, could you add more to this rotation? I definitely think you could, right? When you look at the rotation as a whole right now, obviously, you got Gray, Gibson, and Lynn who just joined the party, and Michaelis, that guy's not going anywhere. So really the odd man out, if you were to make an upgrade, would be Steven Matz, right? If you're taking a look at the payroll as of right now, Steven Matz is under control for a couple of more years, and he's not really a whole lot of money here, $12.5 million, which actually gets me in here to the next story, and that is Michael Marino. This is a guy that's been making his name on Twitter, I keep saying Twitter. We got to start saying X. I'm sorry. We have to start saying X. He has been making his name on X. He has been reporting some things. He says here, sources tell Azalea Heron. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly. That's the MLB Nerds guy. I don't know. I feel like personally he just throws things out there a lot. But I feel like Michael Marino, when you look at the reports that he has made, he doesn't just throw stuff out there so much, while MLB Nerds, they were just throwing stuff out there like left and right. And it was like, it just felt disingenuous at times, right? Where with Michael Marino, this is a guy to me, he seems to be a little more conservative when it comes to reporting the news, right? But is saying here, the Cardinals have made teams interested in adding starting pitching aware that left-hander Steven Matz is available via trade, right? So could they move Steven Matz, maybe upgrade something else on the team, maybe try and get a bullpen arm? Maybe you could even trade Steven Matz for maybe another pitcher out there to maybe upgrade the rotation that way. I mean, the one thing about Steven Matz is he's under control. So I don't know, maybe if there is a guy that could be on a 1 year deal, or 1 year 1 year remaining on his deal, I don't know, could you maybe come up with some kind of a package like Corbin Burns, for example, right? Could you maybe make a package with Steven Matz and maybe throw in a couple other prospects in there, a few prospects, and, maybe get Corbin Burns, right? Could that be? But that's in division. I don't really see something like that happening personally. But you see what I mean? A guy that has 1 year remaining, maybe someone like Tyler Glasnow, all right? Maybe you could do some kind of a deal with Steven Matz, Tyler Glasnow, right? Where the Rays, they would be still getting some salary back, but it would be a lot less than what Tyler Glasnow is getting, and you would have Steven Matz for a couple more years. But you see what I'm saying? Maybe you could do something like that. But what I would think, if they do get rid of Matz, I would think maybe it's to try and help improve maybe other parts of the team, right? Maybe get some help for the bullpen, maybe something for the offense, something. But I think Steven Matz is definitely a possibility of a guy that could get moved, and maybe they could go after something else. And then I left out another example. Maybe you could do something with Dylan Cease. Maybe Steven Matz could be a part of that package to go back to the White Sox. I mean, I don't know about that. I don't know, right? Because they both have 2 years remaining. But at least with that deal, right? Again, Chris Getz, the GM of the White Sox, he has said he'll do whatever he can to multiply the players, right? Maybe you could do some kind of a deal with Steven Matz and then throw in some prospects, and then you got Dylan Cease, right? I don't know. I'm just kind of throwing stuff out there. I'm throwing, just whatever against the wall and seeing if it sticks. But Steven Matz, this is a guy, his name is floating around out there according to Michael Marino. Could this be something? We'll just have to wait and see. But speaking of Dylan Cease, we do have some news on Dylan Cease. Everyone, the light goal for tonight, I'm going to go big. I don't know if we're going to be able to do it. We've had some good likes lately on the streams. If you can help us get to 300 tonight, that is a very hefty goal. But if you can help us get there, I will love you forever. But everyone, if you can, hit that like button. Hit the bell notification. That way you know I go live every single time. Share the stream. Subscribe if you are new. We have been getting some traction on the channel. Just had a new video drop this past weekend. Go check that out if you haven't already. And we have been having some new subscribers from that video. So if you are from that video, welcome. How you doing? But let's get to our next story here. And like I mentioned, Dylan Cease, his name is floating around out there, and it looks like the Atlanta Braves might be trying to put something together here for Dylan Cease. Says here, the Braves and the White Sox have discussed a Dylan Cease trade, according to Bob Nightingale, right? We've seen Cease's name float around a little bit. We saw the Dodgers in there at one point, right? It looked like maybe they could have been making some progress, but now it looks like the Braves are jumping into it. Who knows if a deal ever was close with a team, but I think the fact that you're seeing more of these teams jumping in, I think it's inevitable that Dylan Cease is going to be on the move. The fact that you keep seeing his name pop up so much. Now, what would it take to get Dylan Cease? Well, I have talked about his trade value on this channel. Right now, you are looking at a $40.4 million median value, right? It could go maybe even as low as, I believe it was around 35. Let's go take a look at that. So, or 32.3 could be the low point, or it could go as high as 48.5, right? So the median sits at 40.4. Now, I was kind of taking a look at some players that maybe could interest the Chicago White Sox. And if you take a look here, now I'm not suggesting that they should offer this entire package. I'm just throwing some names out there, right? I do think someone like Vaughn Grissom would be a name that goes into this deal, right? And then I would imagine either Bryce Elder or Smith Shawver go back into this deal as well. That to me makes a lot of sense if one of those guys are in this deal. And it looks, are we getting some lag here, everyone? Hold on one second. Okay, no. It looks like we're good. I've been getting lag a little bit the last few days. I don't know what's going on. But, again, I would imagine Elder, Smith Shawver, I would imagine one of those guys would be in this deal. A young starting pitcher going back to Chicago, right? Both of those guys have a ton of control left. That would make sense for one of those guys to be in the deal. If I'm thinking of either Elder or Shawver, the one thing with the White Sox over the years that I have noticed is they like to get guys that have stuff, right? And when I'm looking at Elder and Smith Shawver, I would think the White Sox would prefer Shawver, right? So let's take out Elder from here. Elder is more of like a floor guy, in my opinion. He's got some decent off-speed stuff, but I don't know. I feel like the White Sox would prefer Smith Shawver. So if you take him out, you're actually looking at a package here. I mean, you're looking at a 5-for-1, right? Where I got Grissom, Smith Shawver, and then I got a few other guys, J.R. Ritchie, Vines, and Color, right? So if you look at the position of these guys when it comes to pipeline, right? Color is the number 4. We got Ritchie as the number 6, and we got Vines as the number 10. So I would think someone like Vines could be in this deal because he is major league ready. He did pitch a little bit in the major leagues last year. I would think maybe the White Sox would like him, but maybe some of these other guys are a little far away, right? You know, J.R. Ritchie is a bit far away. All right, he was someone that was actually just drafted not too long ago, right? If you take a look last year, he had some pretty good numbers. He didn't pitch too much last year, I believe. Did he have some kind of a surgery last year? Did he have Tommy John? Can't remember. But he is someone that definitely has some good value, has a good repertoire. I think that's someone that, you know, could end up being pretty good down the road. So maybe, you know, and someone like Cade Color as well. He was actually just drafted this past year. He's an A right now. He had 2 starts in A ball. Actually did very well during those 2 starts. So maybe one of Color or Ritchie could be involved in this. You know, kind of take your pick here. But these 5 guys, when you're looking at values, I could see a package kind of like this. But I do think the centerpieces would be Grissom and Smith Shawver, or maybe Elder if the White Sox want to go that way. That seems to make the most sense to me. I could be wrong. I don't know. But I definitely think the Braves have a shot. You know, prior to tonight's stream and when I heard the report earlier today, I'm thinking, man, I don't know. I don't know if the Braves really have a good enough package to get him. But then I kind of started coming on here a little bit. I'm like, oh, you know what? Actually, I think maybe the Braves might have enough. I do think the Dodgers have more firepower. That's the one advantage the Dodgers would have over the Braves, is that the Braves, they run a little thin when it comes to the young players, right, and the prospects. The Dodgers, on the other hand, that's where they have that firepower in their farm system. So they can definitely offer, in my opinion, a better package for Dylan Cease. We'll have to see. But keep an eye out for this. Again, could the Cardinals maybe do something? Try to land Dylan Cease. I think that would be a great fit. Could you imagine a rotation of Cease and Gray at the top of it? That is some nasty stuff right there. I would love that. But let's wait and see what ends up happening. Let's shift over to some more stories here. And speaking of guys that could be on the block, there was actually an interesting story here. And this actually ties into Sonny Gray a little bit. So let's actually take a look here. Again, I'm getting some lag. I don't know what is going on here. But let's take a look at this story here. And it looked like the Reds were pretty close to bringing Sonny Gray back. Right? That was a report out there from Mark Sheldon of MLB.com. That would have been crazy if he went back to the Reds. I mean, all of a sudden, the Reds are jumping into the fray. Could the Reds be ready to spend money? I love it. I love it. Let's get the Reds out here, man. Let's start spending some money. Andrew Lee, I see your super chat, $1.99. do a package for Cease from the Padres. I mean, could the Padres actually pull it off? I'll get to that in just 1 second, Andrew Lee. If I'm thinking about it right now, I mean, I don't know. I don't know if the Padres, I mean, hey, again, it's AJ Preller, right? They could definitely add a starting pitcher there, right? Especially if you're going to lose Blake Snell. I could see Preller maybe being aggressive. We'll take a look at that in just a second. But the Reds, this is interesting to me. And again, they are interested in Tyler Glasnow as well, right? So it wasn't just Sonny Gray, but they're also trying to see if they can do something for Tyler Glasnow. Who would have thought the Reds would be a landing spot for Tyler Glasnow? We've been thinking of all these other teams like the Cubs. That's a big one. The Braves, the Cardinals, right? And all of a sudden the Reds are jumping into it. Hey, the Reds need starting pitching. That would have been great if they got Sonny Gray. That would have been massive for that rotation. But I think what this says is that the Reds are looking to make some moves, and they should. They should try to make some moves, right? They're a team that is up and coming. They are ready to make that next step. I think the Reds have a shot at winning that division next year. They got a talented team. I absolutely think the Reds could win that division, and I'm not surprised to see them in the rumor mill with a couple of names. I think that would be amazing if they could do something. So keep your eyes out for this, especially Tyler Glasnow. I think that's really interesting. So let's go back to the simulator, and we got Tyler Glasnow on the Reds. As you can see here, $13.1 million for Tyler Glasnow. And listen, any team can get a deal done there. With Glasnow, you would think his value would be a lot higher, but it has been knocked down a bit because of the injuries, right? Glasnow has great stuff, always has good numbers when he is healthy, but the problem is staying healthy. Now, if the Reds really wanted to get something done, they definitely could. They got a lot of guys in that farm, right? Could you maybe, Chase Petty, that was a guy that they got from the Twins not too long ago. In the Sonny Gray deal, maybe you could move him. Maybe I could see the Rays maybe loving that velocity with Chase Petty. I mean, could you just do a 1-for-1 just like you did with Sonny Gray? I believe that was what the trade was, Sonny Gray for Chase Petty. Was that the trade? Am I even getting that wrong? I can't even remember. My potato brain just doesn't work a lot. Anyway, maybe not just, Chase Petty. Maybe you could do a different package, right? Maybe you could do, I don't know. Let's go look at the Reds' top prospects here, right? I mean, Connor Phillips, I would think, is going to be, well, I don't know. Connor Phillips actually, this actually maybe could be, I actually thought his value was a little higher. Maybe someone like Connor Phillips, right? If we're taking a look at Connor Phillips, he is only 22 years old. He's very close to being Major League ready, right? I mean, he was with the Reds last year. Not great, but this is a guy that could definitely make an impact for you. So he has had a cup of coffee. I could see maybe the Rays liking that. Who knows what the Rays like? I mean, what they see something with analytics, and that's what they'll go to, right? They'll pick up a name that you've never even heard of, right? So Connor Phillips, who knows? He's number 4 here, but would they even be interested in him? I don't even know. But that could be someone. I mean, when you're looking at his value, that definitely falls in the ballpark of Glasnow. Maybe throw in another prospect or two. Maybe get 3 pitchers for Glasnow. I could see something like that. So I definitely think the Reds could get something done. I think if you were to offer a guy, I would think, a top guy in their system, I would think either Connor Phillips or Chase Petty would be in that conversation. They did just draft Ty Floyd. I don't know about that. But go down the list here. There could be some other names that could pop up. I think this would be awesome if the Reds got Tyler Glasnow. I mean, what a crazy move that would be. Anyway, we'll have to keep our eyes on that. The Reds, what I like about that, though, is that you are now... Did they just blow their cover? Have they blown the cover? Were they trying to maybe go under the radar here this offseason? I don't know, because we haven't heard anything about the Reds. We didn't think the Reds would maybe even do anything because they've been pretty quiet when it comes to offseason, moves and trade deadline, right? They didn't do anything at the deadline this past year, really. They did add, guys like Bader, right? But, and who was the other one? Renfroe. They added Renfroe too. So I don't know. Let's see if the Reds do something. Will they actually drop some cash? And if they were pretty close to getting Sonny Gray, look out for the Reds. They could be on the market for something. I don't know about any of the big guys, but I could see someone maybe like Eduardo Rodriguez. I could see someone like Eduardo Rodriguez, right? I would think he's going to be around that same price range as Sonny Gray. I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe Eduardo Rodriguez actually gets a bit more because he is a little younger, right? So I don't know. We'll keep an eye out for the Reds. Moving on to our next story here. Moving on. And, let's dive into this here. I was actually going to do Underdog real quick. I'll do Underdog after this story because I've been really wanting to talk about this. Who would have thought that Alex Bregman would be in the rumor mill? This is a name that I've never thought would come up in trade rumors, but here we are. I mean, if you take a look here at the Astros payroll, right? The Astros, remember they signed Bregman to that extension a few years back, right? But he's coming up on it now. He's coming up on the end of that deal. He is a Scott Boras client. Who knows if the Astros would want to deal with that? But with Bregman, all right, he's going to be a free agent after next year. He's making a lot of money for next year, $30.5 million. So could this be the time where when you look at Bregman right now, he's almost 30 years old. He's still in the prime of his career. He had a good year last year. If we're looking at Bregman, I see another super chat coming in. I'm going to get to that super chat from Andrew Lee in just a little bit. And Connor Gray, I see you've dropped a couple as well. I'm going to catch up to these super chats after this story. But taking a look at Bregman, had himself a really solid year last year for the Astros. 262 on the batting average, a 363 on base, the 441 slugging, a 125 WRC plus, 25 homers, played decent defense. Solid couple of years here for Alex Bregman. So when I heard that his name is coming up, in some of these rumors out here, I'm thinking, man, Bregman? But then when I kind of thought, like, oh, yeah, he's got 1 year left, right? So, yeah, that could make some sense. But this actually came from Jim Duquette of MLB Network Radio, right? He was speculating here. I'll actually play this for everyone to listen to.
I think there is a chance that he may not even be playing in Houston this year. Like, you start to hear his name mentioned in trade rumors, and we haven't seen it much out there, but I know I can say this. Quietly, if I'm...
Also, is there like a dog barking in this? I can't even tell.
I'm Dana Brown. I can't re-sign him. Okay, he's a Scott Boras represented client. They're not gonna pay him what they offered Carlos Correa. In hindsight, it wasn't a bad contract when we know now he had the injury and everything else that came back with it, right? But he should have been getting 8, 9, 10-year offers, right?
Okay, so I'll end it there. But with Bregman, this is a guy that could definitely be a productive player for other teams out there if the Astros were willing to go that route. Here's why I feel like he could end up staying. When it comes to Bregman, you might be thinking here, when it comes to Alex Bregman, right? This is a guy where he could be a huge piece for a lot of teams out there. However, when you look at the trade value with Alex Bregman, right, because he's making so much money, his value isn't as high as maybe you would think, right? We're looking at a median value of 11.5. Maybe it can go up to around 15. Remember, when it comes to trade values, it's not just about the player's performance. It's the entire package. How many years of control? How much money are they making? I don't think the age really has anything to do with it. He was going through some injuries a bit, but really what it comes down to is the money that he's making, and he still has a positive surplus, right? So Bregman would help a lot of teams, but remember the money there, that is kind of holding back the trade value a little bit. Now, I could definitely see some teams maybe going higher than this 11.5, maybe like 15, maybe 16, right? I could see a team maybe getting, going that route. But would the Astros think that's enough for someone like Alex Bregman? Would it be more worth it to hang on to him and go after another World Series championship. I could see the Astros simply going that route because he's not going to be a guy like someone like Dylan Cease, who we were talking about earlier, where Dylan Cease is a completely different entity, right? Where he's a starting pitcher, a good starting pitcher with years of control. That's hard to come by, right? Now, someone like Bregman is hard to come by as well, but Bregman is making a ton of money, whereas Dylan Cease is not making all that much money. Dylan Cease is a very, very good value, not just because of his performance, the years of control, but how little money he's making, right? And with Bregman, he's making a ton, so that's going to knock his value down. However, if there were some teams that could use someone like Alex Bregman, right? We've all been focused on, when it comes to third baseman, right? Matt Chapman, that's been a guy, right, that's been talked about as like the top third baseman on the market. Jeimer Candelario, right? We saw the Diamondbacks, right? They made the move for Eugenio Suarez. I thought that, could have been an option if the Diamondbacks were willing to spend that much money on a player for next year. Probably not. But with Bregman, there's definitely some options out there if they were to go that route. All right, so let's take a look at a couple of these teams, right? I saw a lot of Mets fans today, very active. I don't see it personally. I think right now with the Mets, you got a young third baseman there. I think they're really going to try and give him a chance. This next year for the Mets, that is in my opinion, I think they're going to try and compete, right? But I think they're also going to kind of know their role a little bit too, if that makes sense, right? They're going to do their best to try and make the playoffs. Any team can make the playoffs, right? Especially when you got the 3 spots. But I don't think they're going to go crazy gun-ho trying to make the playoffs, right? So I would personally count the Mets out, especially considering the fact that you got a young third baseman as well. So I'll cross the Mets out. We got a team like the Yankees, right? Now, the Yankees, they have been connected with Bregman. There were some reports out there today that Bregman was of interest to the Yankees. But when I'm looking at the Yankees, I feel like what they don't need right now is infield help, right? I mean, could you maybe... Now, here's an idea. If you were to do a trade, we'll talk about Juan Soto in just a little bit. If you were to do a trade with Juan Soto, maybe you could send back someone like Anthony Rizzo to the Padres to give them some kind of offense in return, right? A lefty bat in return. I'm not saying Anthony Rizzo for Juan Soto, so please do not even come after me like that with that nonsense. But if you were to move Rizzo somehow, let's say it could be in a package with Juan Soto, that could clear up first base. You could move DJ LeMahieu to first, and then you could put Alex Bregman at third. That's an idea. I feel like you have to move a lot of pieces in order to get that one done, so I would say the Yankees are a little less likely, in my opinion. A team like the Tigers, right? They could really use some offense. However, problem is they got a young third baseman by the name of Colt Keith, right? That's a guy that's going to be just raking at some point. 1 year of Alex Bregman, is that really something the Tigers would want to do? I don't know, but could they make that upgrade? Yeah, I personally just don't see it. But there is a team like the San Francisco Giants, right? I have said on record, I think Matt Chapman is a perfect fit for the San Francisco Giants. They are looking to make a splash. I could see Bregman being a fallback option for Alex Bregman. I would also think they would prefer someone under control, so I could see a couple of hiccups there as well. But I think they would personally, if they are to be going for a third baseman out there to try and upgrade the position, J.D. Davis was decent with the bat last year, but the defense is not very good with J.D. Davis. Matt Chapman would add a lot more defense there. So I think that would be an upgrade for that team. But if they don't land Chapman, could Bregman be a fallback option for 1 year? I don't know. A team like the Toronto Blue Jays could be really interesting. Right now you got Kevin Biggio there. I definitely think the Blue Jays could get a trade done. I think that's very possible. I don't know. It's just something. It's just that 1 year of Bregman. Would the Blue Jays be interested in a 1 year pact, basically? Sure. I mean, they, remember with Semien not too long ago, they signed the 1 year deal with him. Could they be okay with Bregman for 1 year? Why not? I think the Blue Jays, they could use a bit more beef in that lineup. I feel like they could use a good bat like Bregman, right? I think these other guys in this lineup, they need to really step it up a little bit more, considering that when you look at the slugging percentages of these guys, right? Vlad, Bo Bichette, Jansen, Springer, they were all under a 500 slugging last year. So they got to fix something internally, right? So when it comes to the Blue Jays, I definitely think that could be something, right? However, when I'm thinking of the Blue Jays, there has been one name that has come up recently, and that was Bo Bichette. Remember, Bo Bichette was a target for the Cubs, supposedly, according to reports. Remember, Bo Bichette, they were looking at maybe moving him to third base, according to those reports. Well, last time I checked, Alex Bregman is a third baseman, and the Cubs are looking to make some kind of a splash. Alex Bregman on the Cubs. Hey, I could see this, right? They got money to spend. They're looking to make a splash. They could definitely use an upgrade at third offensively. I'm just saying, maybe Bregman with the Cubs could be a pretty good fit. I could see the Cubs maybe being an option. But my personal guess when it comes to Alex Bregman, I think he ends up staying with the Astros. I feel like when it comes to the return that you're going to get for him, considering he's going to be making a lot of money this coming year, I don't know if the Astros are really going to get a package that's going to fully convince them to trade him away, right? I don't know. That's just my idea. I think they would rather keep him and go after a World Series. That's just my opinion. Now, here we go, everyone. Here we go. Let's get to those Super Chats real quick. I know we had a few Super Chats in here. And Andrew Lee, I saw your Super Chat. Let's get to that one here. So you said do a package for Dylan Cease for the Padres. Well, let's try it. Let's try it. Let's do a little Dylan Cease to the Padres. You know, I don't think it's that bad of an idea, to be completely honest with you. And, you know, we're all talking here. Atlanta Braves for Dylan Cease. LA Dodgers for Dylan Cease. How many times before have the Padres just come out of nowhere and traded for a guy, right? You know, I could maybe see something like that, honestly. Would you really be surprised at that point? But let's put together, you know, let's see if we can put together a package, right? Let's do Dylan Cease to the Padres. You know A.J. Preller loves to wheel and deal. So let's see. Let's see if they have something good enough, right? Well, if I'm looking at some guys, don't think Jackson Merrill is going anywhere. They're going to be hanging on to that guy. Could you do Dylan Lesko? All right, I mean, this is a guy, I know they just drafted him not too long ago. That guy could be really good. He had Tommy John. I don't know. Personally, I wonder if that's a guy they would like to part with. Now, if you go down the list here, it gets a little tough. I think if the Padres do a trade for Cease, I think they would have to include Lesko. Personally, you could do Robbie Snelling, right? That is another option there. Could you maybe do Snelling? You do Iriarte. You know, kind of just fill it up, you know, with some lower value guys like an Adam Mazur, Tom Cosgrove. You got Dylan Head. So the Padres could get something done. You know, even if let's take out Lesko, right? That's their top pitching prospect. All right, so if you did Robbie Snelling, you know, you could do Mazur. I mean, why not? You can even do Dylan Head, right? They just drafted him, but you know, if we're looking at some other guys, who was the other one that I said? Jairo Iriarte. You know, if you do a package like this, maybe you're on the right track. I don't know. I feel like the White Sox would really want Lesko instead. I don't know. But I think the Padres could do something. Will they be able to beat out some of these other teams? I don't know. But look out for the Padres. They're always trying to be aggressive on the trade market. Connor Gray, $1.99. Finally, the Cards get good pitching. Hey, and good for the Cardinals, man. Good for them, right? Mozeliak, they had a mission this offseason. Add at least 3 starting pitchers. And they did it. You know, was it the starting pitching that you had expected, right? Guys like Aaron Nola, that was someone Cardinals fans really wanted. I was thinking maybe they could do Nola and Gray, right? It's funny when I was doing my predictions, right? When I was coming up with my predictions, Kyle Gibson to the Cardinals was actually something that I had written in, and then I switched it up because I'm like, well, you know what? I got to get some other teams in on the mix. You know, I needed the Padres to land a guy, so I was like, you know what? Let's do Kyle Gibson for the Padres. They're losing some starting pitching. That guy can give you innings. I saw maybe something like that, but he was definitely someone I considered for the Cardinals just because he gave you innings, and that's what the Cardinals needed. So I was on the right track there. Taking a look here, Connor Gray again, trade Matz and bring in a legit number one ace. Again, could you package Matz maybe in a deal for the White Sox? Matz and some pitching prospects? Maybe you could do something like that. I don't know if the White Sox would want that. I don't know. But you're on the right track with that. Fries? Is it Fries? I'm going to say Fries, right? Because you have a picture of Fries. $10 super chat. Did you see the Cardinals story about trading Matz and going after Yamamoto? You know what? Let's talk a little Yamamoto. Thank you for the $10 super chat. Really appreciate that. But yes, we talked about Steven Matz a little earlier, where that could be someone that they dangle. Who knows, what they could really get. Let's actually go take a look at the trade value of Steven Matz. What exactly would Steven Matz bring to your team when it comes to a trade package? Now, I don't even know off the top of my head what his value would be. I'm going to guess his value probably around like $5-7 million. I could see something like that. Let's see if I'm right. Okay. All right. I was close. 4.8 in the median. All right. So Matz could bring you something. All right. He could definitely bring you something. Right. I could see maybe a prospect and maybe a bullpen arm. That sounds like something you could do. Or again, you could put him into a package, right? So if you were to maybe jump in the Dylan Cease sweepstakes, let's put together something here. All right, so let's do Cease to the Cardinals. I would love Dylan Cease on the Cardinals, man. That would just make a lot of sense. Here we go. So let's just send back Matz, right? That way they're at least getting a starter for next year. And then, you know what? I think you can just kind of plug guys in. Could you do Tink Hence, Matthew Liberatore, one of those guys? Maybe Brendan Donovan. Maybe you could do Brendan Donovan, Steven Matz, throw in a couple other pitching prospects. Maybe Gordon Gracefo. Is that how you pronounce it? I feel like I always forget how to pronounce it. Could maybe Cooper Jerpy in there as well? Cooper Jerpy gets a lot of comparisons to Chris Sale. So maybe, Cardinals fans, would you do this for Dylan Cease, Matz, Donovan, Gracefo? I'm sorry. I know I'm botching it. I can't remember how to say it. And then Jerpy? I'm just saying. I think the White Sox and the Cardinals, they seem like great trade partners when it comes to someone like Dylan Cease. Personally, that's just me. But thank you for the $10 super chat. Greatly appreciate that. But real quick, everyone, I want to talk about tonight's sponsor, and that is Underdog Fantasy. So if we go take a look here, we have a game on right now. Oh, it's Monday. Did I say tomorrow or did I? What? I just went blank on what day it is. Did I say earlier that we had just had Monday Night Football last night? I must have been thinking Sunday Night Football. I don't even know what day it is. Anyway, Monday Night Football is going on right now. You got the Vikings. You got the Bears, right? But the big thing that Underdog Fantasy is doing is in-game pick'ems, right? You could literally go into Underdog Fantasy, either on the website or on the app, and you can make picks literally during the game, right? I have done many daily fantasy games before. I haven't seen that before. That is something that's pretty new to me. So that's kind of one of those things, right? How many times have you all played, those of you that play daily fantasy out there, right? You're busy during the day. You forget to make your picks. And you're like, crap, I didn't make my picks. And then You come on here and you're like, oh, I can still make picks. It's still in the game, right? So this is what you can do. But that is definitely a big thing to go check out. We got basketball as well. How about the Orlando Magic? I didn't realize that the Orlando Magic were actually playing pretty well this year. But same thing, in-game pick'ems you can do right now. We have a couple other games starting later on the West Coast. And right now, hey, LeBron, hey, this is a guy where LeBron James, he's still putting up all the numbers, right? You can go make some pick'ems for here. Guys like Anthony Davis, D'Angelo Russell, got Joel Embiid. And this is just for one game. So go check it out, Underdog Fantasy. And we got a lot of football coming up after Monday Night Football tonight. You got Thursday night, you got Sunday night. So go check it out, everyone. Your number one stop for all your daily fantasy needs. The link is in the description down below. Promo code is HIDE. You get a double on your first deposit up to $100. Let's get to it here, everyone. Let's get to it here. We got another juicy story to talk about. We got all the juiciness right now. And let's actually head on over to the Juan Soto story. And listen, Juan Soto, this is a guy I got to think here. This guy's got to get traded, right? I could also see the Padres wanting to hang on to him. But Hector Gomez, take it with a grain of salt, right? I do personally think Hector Gomez does hear things out there, right? He doesn't come off to me as a guy. Maybe I could see people having different opinions about this. He doesn't come off to me as a guy that really cares, that trying to get clout, right? Whenever he puts out stories out there, they're always pretty unique, right? They're always kind of like, what, really? That's happening? Right? Now, a lot of the things he says does come out wrong, but I genuinely think that he puts out stuff that he actually hears. That's just my own gut feeling. Maybe I'm wrong. I mean, maybe I'm way off on that. I don't know. That's just me. But he did say here, a person very close to Juan Soto just told me that although the Yankees have a very good chance of getting him, he believes that Soto has a better chance of staying with the Padres in 2024 instead of being traded. He does list that the Mets and the Giants are involved in talks too. Listen, I'm telling you, I've said this like a million times. I don't know how many times I gotta even say it more. This guy has got pinstripes written all over him. I know everyone's groaning in the chat as I'm saying that for like the 20th time. This is coming from a Red Sox fan. Listen, I've seen many Yankees over the years. I look at Juan Soto and I just see a Yankee. That's just me. I could also maybe see the Mets, right? When they got all that money, if you make a trade for Soto, here's the thing, right? I did mention earlier, right? The Mets, they have been on record saying that they are probably not going to approach this offseason like they have like they have in prior years, the last couple of years, right? Because they've tried spending the money, right? They made the big splashes, and look what happened this year. So to me, from a business point of view, it doesn't seem like good business to just try and keep doing the same things, right? What's the old saying, right? When, something that's psychotic, right, is something that you do over and over and over again. I mean, do we really expect them to go out and drop even more cash after just completely swinging and missing on Scherzer and Verlander, right? I don't know. That's just in my gut. It doesn't seem like something that, yes, based off of prior years, yeah, I could see the Mets going out there and spending some big bucks. But looking at what happened this past year, looking at just from that perspective, you would think that the Mets would probably not go out there and spend a whole ton of money. Maybe go out there and make some moves, right? Definitely go out and try and improve your team. But landing the big names, I personally don't think they will, right? I think they'll go out there and sign some guys, but I don't think they're going to be going crazy. However, could you maybe do Juan Soto? If you were to make that exception, right? If you were to say, like, okay, right, if the Mets were to spend some big bucks, right, if they were kind of maybe trying to back away from it this offseason, one exception would be Juan Soto, because this could be a face of the franchise lifetime player, right? Steve Cohen's got money. That would not be the issue. The issue, I think, would be, would Soto want to sign there long-term? I could see Soto wanting to sign long-term with the Yankees, say what you will about the Yankees, right? About how they've been, run the last few years and the results. But the Yankees are the Yankees at the end of the day. That's history right there. That's pinstripes. I keep saying the word pinstripes. But I could see maybe Soto being intrigued by signing a long-term deal with the Mets, but I think he would all honestly like to see a bit more stability, right? With what's, how they're running the organization. That to me, I could see him thinking like, I don't know, long-term, right? I don't know. I think he would need to see a lot of positives, right? If he were to get traded there, I think the Yankees, in my opinion, would have a much better chance at signing him long-term, right? And then you got the Giants. Do the Padres trade him in division? I don't see it personally. I don't think they would. AJ Preller doesn't even want to trade him. Why would he trade him to a team in the division? That doesn't make any sense, right? So keep an eye out for this. Keep an eye out for it. I will say it for like the billionth time. I think the Yankees have the best shot, right? And he is kind of confirming it here, but he also says there's a chance he ends up staying. Yeah, he could end up staying, all right? Preller, I think there's a bit of pride in that too, right? Preller's thinking like, gosh, if I trade Soto, I pretty much just look like an idiot, right? I'm going to hang on to my pride. I'm going to keep him. I'm going to try everything I can to lock him up long term. If we have a good year, maybe that convinces him. But I would say he either stays or he's a Yankee. That's just my opinion. Connor Gray, $1.99 won't happen, but if the Cardinals get Cease and Robert Jr., OMG. Ooh-wee, could you imagine Robert Jr. and Dylan Cease? How insane would that be? How insane would that be? We got one more story, everyone. Well, actually, we got two more stories. My Red Sox are in the news. Is this more speculation? Yeah. But, I'm just saying, man. Listen, you don't ever hear a story like this, right? I talked last night, Jordan Montgomery, how the Yankees had made a phone call, and I pretty much thought that was hilarious, right? The Rangers, the Cardinals, they're interested in reunions. However, remember what I said. Go back to the beginning of the offseason. One of the first stories that we got was the Red Sox calling Jordan Montgomery's agent. Right off the bat, that initial interest right out of the gate, I think says a lot to me that the Red Sox are like, okay, that's our target. We got to land that guy. We got to land a couple of guys, but we really want this guy, right? And you know the old saying, right? How many times, I guess this really isn't an old saying, but how many times have you heard a player be on record saying, yeah, they really showed interest in me early on, right? They were a team that just really wanted me to come play there, right? And I really appreciated that, right? How many times have you heard a player say that in their introductory press conference? Listen, the Red Sox, I'm guessing they have still shown some interest, right? You just haven't really heard them in the news. But there is an intriguing story here. Jordan Montgomery is now going to be living in Boston in the offseason because his wife is, I guess she's going to dermatology school, but she's going to be doing her residency at a hospital in the area. Montgomery has been working out and throwing at Boston College in recent weeks. Just saying. Initial interest. Staying in Boston. Jordan Montgomery, you are a Boston Red Sox. I'm just saying here. But we do got one more story. Could that actually mean Jordan Montgomery comes to Boston? I don't think so. But I do think that is interesting that he is going to be staying in Boston. Maybe they already have some kind of a deal. Who knows? I don't know. But the Red Sox have also shown interest in Blake Snell, according to Sean McAdam. I personally don't like the idea of Blake Snell. I don't think that's a guy they really need to go after. I think he walks too many guys, right? I think Blake Snell there are really good fits for him elsewhere. I personally think the Cardinals would still be a great fit. Do they want to spend that money? I don't know. I think the Cubs would be really good. They could use more strikeouts in that rotation. The Red Sox, on the other hand, I wouldn't hate Blake Snell being in this rotation. I would not. If we landed Blake Snell, I would try to do a cartwheel. I would love that. Hey, the guy's nasty. I love the stuff. I prefer some other options out there. Yamamoto is my absolute number one target, personally, right? A young guy that you can kind of build around for the next few years. That's just my own personal opinion. Guy that's got good stuff. I think he would be really good for the Red Sox. Now, Blake Snell, he's not my top choice, but I would love Blake Snell personally. I would actually prefer Montgomery over Snell because I think Montgomery is going to give you a bit more consistency, right? Blake Snell has been prone to inconsistencies in the past. We do got one more story here, and we actually had another signing today. And hey, give it up for Jason Heyward, man. What a great turnaround for his career. I actually just did a video on the worst free agent signing for each team ever, and I did talk about Jason Heyward with the Cubs, right? When it came to Jason Heyward and the Cubs, big thing there was, obviously financially, awful signing. But what he did for that team, helping them win a World Series, what he did for the city, yeah, of course, didn't play as well as he would have liked, right? It was pretty awful value-wise. But, right, he had the Game 7 speech during the rain delay. There was a lot of good things that he brought, right? Helped win a World Series at the end of the day. But obviously the contract was bad. The value was bad. But to see him turn his career around last year, more of a platoon guy, right? But he did so well in that spot, right? And good for him getting a 1-year, $9 million deal. And to me, this makes just a lot of sense, man. He had success there. That's like Jordan Montgomery, right? Look how well Jordan Montgomery did with the Cardinals. Could you just go back to the Cardinals, right? He did well with the Rangers. Why not just stay with the Rangers? Similar thing here, right? So why leave, right? If you did very well there and it seemed like he enjoyed his time with the Dodgers, why leave? I think it's a great move. And the Dodgers, they keep not just a solid player, but a solid person in their clubhouse. And that, to me, I think is a big thing, right? Everyone, I'm going to start getting out of here. I'm going to wrap this one up. It's been a little over an hour since we started. And I always want to just say thank you for stopping by. It is greatly appreciated. If you can do me one favor, hit the like button on the way out. It's greatly appreciated if you can try and help us get to our like goal. The like goal was 300 tonight. I went for a pretty lofty goal. And, hey, we got to 142. Up to this point, I'll take that. I mean, hey, I shot for the stars, couldn't quite hit 300, but that's okay. But if you can hit on the way out, I will love you forever. Hit the bell, share the show, subscribe if you are new. But everyone, I'm out of here. Thank you for stopping by tonight. Always appreciate it. It's always great to see all your familiar faces. And, hey, we'll probably be back tomorrow night. Look out for it. Probably going to have some more news tomorrow. It was a busy start to the week today. And to everyone, thank you. Also, CM Punk on Monday Night Raw. I got the TV on. I'm waiting for the guy to come on out. If you're a wrestling fan, CM Punk back on WWE Raw for the first time in what feels, I think, like 10 years. Goodness gracious. Everyone, I'm out of here. Thanks for stopping by. And as always, have a great night. And I'll talk to you next time.